Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Max on Color. And today, I'm accompanied by my good friend of mine, my best friend, Nico Fink, a colorist based in Vienna. And Nico will help us to understand LUT better. I think if you are like me, you probably already like wondering um, you probably like been using or probably like asking around like yourself, what is LUT? How do I use it? How do I can like make the most of it? So I hope in today's episode we can understand better LUT, and we have like the best guest, the best candidate to explain that things better. Nico, how are you, man?
Hey Max, nice to be here. Thanks a lot for the invitation.
Thank you so much. I'm very flattered that Nico agreed to come to the show. And I see in the chat, Greg is there. Hello, Greg. Thank you so much for joining. Nice to see you again. And Kiran as well there with a question. So, Nico, there are already some questions in the chat. But, I will not take further more times. So let's just like do a little housekeepings, and after that, we'll jump into Nico's sessions right away. Right? Okay.
Perfect.
Now let me share you this screen first. All right. If you're wondering about the webinars that Maxon always do, and you want to know where to find them, you can go to maxon.net/events, and you'll see today we have Max on Color with Nico, and we will learn more about LUTs, especially how to create one, what is LUT, the technical aspect of it, and how to modify one even. And yeah, I'll keep you the surprise. Nico will tell you all the detail later on. Right. And again, if you're new to the show and you want to get one of this free T-shirt, you can. And I think Kyle will post that in the chat, the link to the shop, so you can go to the shop and use the password for today as Maxon UV workflows, and you will be redirected into the shop, and you can choose one of this T-shirt to get, and they will be like free of charge, and of course you just need to pay for the shipping cost. So Nico, if you are interested in one of this T-shirt, be my guest, take you can order it. The code is in the chat as well. Right.
Thank you.
No problem, man.
Awesome.
And yes, this live show is recorded. There you go. It is recorded and it will be available in YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search for Maxon Training Team, it will be there, and it will be timestamped even. So if you want to just skip to the important bits, you can. Right? So without further ado, let me hands off the floor to Nico. So Nico, what are we going to learn today, man? What are we going to chat today?
Thank you, Max. And hi, everybody. As Max already told you, I'm Nico. Some of you might know me as Wiesneder, which was my name before my marriage, so new last name. It's Fink now. And yeah, I'm a colorist for quite a few years already. And since I would say COVID, I'm really interested in all things color science. And because of that, I also looked under the hood of LUTs, and we will talk about today what are the different sizes, the different kind of LUTs, what you can use LUTs for, and maybe also some math that's happening under the hood. And of course, I will also show you or talk about some advantages and disadvantages and some practical examples. But yeah, I think, should we jump right into it, Max, or do you want to say
Absolutely.
some more things about it?
Oh, yes, I actually want to say something. Is that Nico, apart for being a colorist, a very talented colorist, of course, you can follow him in his Instagram. I think it's nicofink.color, right, Nico?
Yeah,
Or is
yeah,
it
that's
Art
correct.
Jungle?
No,
Apart from
that was
that,
the correct one.
the Nico Fink .color. And apart
Yeah,
from
sure.
that, Nico is also a great mentor, and he's also having like this tutorial website with some nice shop in it, some nice asset in the shop in it. So if you are interested to get one of these fancy LUTs that Nico will tell us about more in the sessions, you can. And the link to Nico's website, I'll post that in the chat later on. And in the website, there are plenty of tutorials, anything color grading related. Right. So, without further ado, Nico, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks again for bringing this up. That's also one thing I do since 2020. I started like the tutorial website. It's called Demystify Color. And in there, I talk a lot about also LUTs because of film emulations. And yeah, I also have a shop, and I will give a coupon code to Max, so all you guys can use it if you want to get some stuff from there.
That's
Yeah,
very generous
now,
of you, Nico. Thank you so much.
sure, you're welcome. My pleasure. And yeah, now we will go and talk about LUTs. And maybe some of you think that LUTs are pretty overwhelming and sometimes even have a very bad reputation. Generally speaking, I think the later one is getting a bit better within the last few years because a lot more people talk about LUTs and get educated about them. So I think the bad reputation goes away a bit. And the overwhelming part, hopefully I can help you with that one today. Because yeah, LUTs are a pretty big topic and sometimes it's really hard to digest because we have so many things to consider and that are different, and sometimes it's not working correctly, and maybe you don't know why that is the case. But yeah, let's start with the most basic thing, and what does actually LUT stand for? And it's short form for lookup table, and this also basically describes what the LUT is doing. So you basically have one set of values, which is your input, and then you transform this set of values with the help of the LUT, and you get another set, which is your output. And because of that, we can say LUTs are a simple input and output transformation. Obviously, under the hood and how you create the LUT and how you create LUTs, it's not that simple sometimes. But when the LUT is finished, every single LUT can only have one single input and one single output. So to speak, LUTs are more or less pretty dumb. So they don't know automatically or recognize automatically what you feed into them or how to use them. I will show you some tricks how you can get some of that information, but that's also like one very first important rule already, that when you're using LUTs, you always have to know your correct input, and that's a color space and a gamma curve. So you always need to know what your LUT needs as input. There's only one single correct input and also one single correct output. So best case, you should also know what your LUT is outputting. Again, which color space and which gamma curve. So I would suggest never use a LUT if you don't know what you're feeding in and what you'll get out. That's like the first very important thing I want to cover today. And now to the different LUTs. It's a pretty big thing or pretty big topic, and on one hand we have different LUTs. They are called like 1D LUTs. The D stands for dimensional, so that's a one-dimensional LUT. Then we have a 3x1D LUT and a 3D LUT. Then these LUTs can have different sizes, for example 17 by 17 by 17, or probably the most common ones are 33 by 33 by 33, or even 65 by 65 by 65. And besides that, we also have different applications for these LUTs. That can be a creative LUT, a technical LUT, a calibration LUT, or maybe even hybrids of those. And that's all LUTs, but everything's different, so it can be quite confusing. And Furthermore, there's also probably one very big topic, which is the show LUT, and we also discuss that one later on. But yeah, more of that in a minute. Let's start with probably the simplest one, which is, I would say, for explaining the calibration LUT, because as the name already suggests, you can use this LUT for calibration. That means if you're having a reference display and you want to get accurate colors on this one, you will use a calibration LUT. You can create this calibration LUT with the help of some hardware. You will need probes, or two best case, but we won't go into details, and a program, for example Calman or Light Illusion, Colorspace. And then you measure your display, and the program more or less automatically calculates the offsets and creates a LUT. Then you can feed this LUT into a LUT box or your display, and then you will have accurate colors. So that's a really simple form. And this LUT most of the time is a 3D LUT. That means it don't just have a tone curve. It doesn't just manipulates your tone curve, so all the gray patches, but also the color volume. So that's our next topic already. Like the 1D LUT is, as it says, one-dimensional. That means you can have a LUT that's manipulating your black, your mid-gray, and your white, for example. And if you have a 3D LUT, you can not only have this one, but also maps all your colors. For example, your yellow can get more greenish or more orangey. And then in the middle of these two, you have a 3x1D LUT, which basically adjusts your contrast in the blacks and mid-gray and whites. And it can also do some split toning. For example, you can get like more yellow highlights or more coolish, bluish shadows. So that would be already a lot.
Yeah.
Besides that, we can have also technical LUTs. And most of you are probably familiar with some technical LUTs. For example, if you shoot on an Arri Alexa, so to say, then you shoot in log. And you can enable a viewing LUT, which is a technical LUT in this case, that takes your log signal to Rec 709 gamma 2.4, for example. That means Arri, the camera manufacturer, provides you with a technical LUT that takes the log signal to Rec 709 gamma 2.4, so from scene to display. And because of that, your footage looks way better, because you should look at log footage ever, I would say. And
it's not for consumptions. It's for working.
Definitely.
Yes.
But it's way easier if you have like a viewing LUT enabled. And
yeah.
And last but not least, we also have creative LUTs. And creative LUTs are, for example, you have some look that you like, for example, a teal and orange look. You can save that one in a LUT and then apply it to footage. So that would be a purely creative LUT. It just manipulates your colors however you prefer and want to. So we covered a lot, but the last thing we need to cover are the different sizes of LUTs. And these are probably a bit more complicated, so to say, and to explain, but I will do my best to explain it as simple as possible. Because, as I said, you have like 17 by 17 by 17, and usually a 17-point LUT, I would say, is for 1D. It can be also a 3D LUT, but most of the time you see them with 1D LUTs. And these sizes suggest how many points you have in your LUT. So for 17, it's 17 times 3, and you will get some sort of number out of it. It's pretty big. But if you do the same thing, or to put it different, with 33 it's even more, and with 65 it's even more. So you see 17 is the smallest one, 33 is kind of in the middle, and 65 is pretty big already. We can go even up, but that would be, or let's say we don't use it that often. And the 1D LUT, because it's one-dimensional, consists of the range from 0 to 1023. So it means it has 1024 elements in it. And if you put this number to a 3D LUT, again, we have 1024 elements, but times 3, because it's 3-dimensional, which ends up to a really big number. So it's 1023, sorry, not times, but oh no, I lost the word in English. It's 1024 by times multiplied by 1024 multiplied by 1024. So we have a number of, I can't even say it in English, but it's really,
I need
really
a calculator for that.
It's like 1 billion and something. So it's really big. And as you can see, with 65 by 65 by 65, it's even bigger, because it's just really, really huge. And then these LUTs, or the sizes of these LUTs, are referred to points. So basically the number that comes out are your points. And between this point, or these points, between these points, you basically get the
interpolations, right, Nico? Between
interpolation. Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yes, correct.
So this
Sorry.
points. So the points is like the point created is like the points where you sample the sampling point, and then the area which you have which you don't have the points will be interpolated. Isn't that right?
No, that's like the maximum points that you can have, and
Okay.
between these points you get the interpolation.
I see.
Yeah, but I think that's way too much math already, and it's also not so easy for me to explain in English. Sorry for that, guys.
No
but
problem.
I hope you got it. And
just to summarize it, Nico, before we move on, so you mean like there are like 3 different LUTs, type wise. So there are 1D LUT and 3D LUTs and 3 by 1D LUTs, right? So the 1D LUT, is it only the 1D LUT is normally used just to change the tonal curve of an image, while the 3D LUT is able to change the tonal curve and also the color of an image. Means like you can get the contrast and also changing the color primaries of an image. And meanwhile, the 3D LUTs is like 3 by 1D LUT is like combining 3 1D LUTs together, so you can get a color separations, like split toning in your image. Is that correct, Nico?
yes, correct. Yes.
Thank you. So I'm listening, Nico.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I just got a bit confused because I was missing the word.
No problem.
Term I was looking for. But yeah, another thing that I wanted to show you guys, which is a bit more practical, because we talked about interpolation. Within Resolve, if you go to your preferences or your project settings, sorry, and in this window within the color management, you can see the 3D lookup table interpolation. And it's very important that you don't have this on Trilinear, which is the default, but change it to Tetrahedral, which gets way better interpolation. Why that's the case, we don't go into details now, but it's basically because the math that's doing the interpolation calculation is better. So I would always suggest, if you work with LUTs, always set the default to Tetrahedral and not to Trilinear. So that's important, even though you don't care about the math. But yeah, let's move on and maybe go a bit away from the math, because I think it's too complex or too much in detail anyways. But if you still want to learn more about the math, I'm writing about this on Demystify Color, and I will do a tutorial very soon, which will also be available for free. So you just have to create an account, which is for free. You don't need any subscription or stuff like that. Then you're able to access it. So this way, maybe in a few days or so, you can go through everything we talked about today. Once again, I will also link to this YouTube video then, and I will also provide you some more details, especially with the math. I think it's easier
Awesome.
to write it out and then you can go through it.
I provided the
several
link in
times.
the chat. Sorry.
Yeah, awesome. And then it's also probably easier to follow along, and for me that I don't get confused if I lose the word that I was looking for. But yeah, to more, and one last thing, I was talking about 10-bit range, so that was also just for 10-bit what I said with the math. Okay, so as you can see, it can be quite complex, and the advantage is you can get really complex looks and interpolation and math happening under the hood. Once you've created the LUT, the really big advantage is that it performs really well. So if you have a crazy look with a lot of DCTLs or plugins or whatever, you can render a LUT and your performance on your system will be way faster and way better. So that's one really big advantage of LUTs. And so probably what would be more interesting for everyone is to move into the, not in the sizes for the LUTs, but in the different LUTs that you will need for your, or you can use for your everyday work. So as I already said and explained, you have technical LUTs with the camera manufacturer, if you remember. You have the creative ones, you have the calibration LUT. But what we didn't mention yet is the hybrids. And for example, one hybrid can be a technical LUT and a creative LUT. You can marry them together. And one probably really famous application of this are film print emulations. And they are creative because you have like all this film profiling happening inside, but also technical because most of the time they are taking you from log to, or more precisely from Cineon and film primaries to your display, which can be Rec 709 gamma 2.4 or DCI P3 with a gamma of 2.6. And because we have some creative manipulations in there, which is the film profiling and the technical transformation going from scene to display, these are hybrid LUTs. That's very important, and I would say a really big topic because a lot of people are interested in film print emulations lately. And last but not least, another big thing that you will hear a lot are show LUTs. And show LUTs are also sometimes referred to as viewing LUTs. And what that means is that if I'm, for example, the colorist or the color scientist for a project, let's say a feature film, then the DP comes to me and we do some camera testing and do some looks up front. And I will render these looks for him as a LUT. Most of the time it's also a hybrid LUT because I do some creative manipulations and also take, again, if he shoots on an Alexa, for example, take his log to Rec 709 gamma 2.4 so that he can shoot with this LUT on set with. And that's very important because this way you can light very consistently. If you have like, I don't know, 50 shooting days and you have this LUT on, you always have the same look and the same transformation on set. So a show LUT is really good for consistency when shooting feature films, for example, and to set looks already so they can light for them the look on set. All right, and to do it some more practical, I would say I show you some stuff within Resolve. So this is red footage. It's shot by a good friend of mine. He's called Thomas Dunzendorfer and his company is Faded Works. He does really amazing things, and that's like an interview situation that he shot. And for example, if we go to the film logs that are coming with Resolve, so if you have a Resolve, these are coming to you for free. And we are using the Rec 709 one today, and let's do the D60, which stands for the white point of 6000 Kelvin. And if we apply that LUT, one thing that's really weird, if we enable this node, it kind of looks dark and not so nice. And that's the reason why I was pretty confused back in the days when I started out. I was like, I don't know, I don't get it why I should use that one. And that's a perfect example for not having the correct input. And now you're saying, yeah, okay, they are shipping within Resolve. I don't know what should be the input of this one because I don't get it from the name. And what you can do is you can right mouse click in here and say reveal in Finder. And then you can open this one up with Lattice if you have it, and if you're on a Mac, which is a very, very good software if you want to manipulate LUTs and do some crazy things with them. But you can also open that one up with your IDE or with your text edit. And then you will see that there is some information about the input, which is Cineon log within the range. So that's something we didn't cover yet, and which would be like one disadvantage of LUTs. You always have a range, or let's say most of the time, from 0 to 1. So everything below and above is clipping. It's usually not a problem if you know how to work with them and if you know what you're feeding in and what you're getting out. But of course, it's not like floating point or like 32-bit or stuff like that. So it's always clipping 0 to 1. And then we have the output, which you see what we talked about. It's the look of a 2383 film stock that was profiled, and it's going to my display to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. That's amazing. So we know one thing already, and this would be that we're having the wrong input at the moment because we are using red-white gamut RGB and log 3G10 instead of Cineon, because that's red and I'm debayering this way. So what we can do now is we can use a Colorspace transform, or what I prefer to do is to use a ACEScct transform. And if I enable this one, I should have showed you before. So as you can see, that's how I'm debayering the footage, red, white, gamut, RGB and log 3G10. And with the ACEScct transform, I'm going from red, white gamut and log 3G10 to ADX10, which is probably a bit confusing for you right now because we said it should be Cineon. But what it didn't state is the color space, and because of that I'm using ADX10 because that's an amazing profile the Academy came up with, and it's Cineon with film primaries. So oversimplified, they used a lot of negative film stocks and averaged them together because the color space of negative film is not defined. So it's film primaries, but you don't have like exact X, Y, and Z coordinates and exact color space as with other digital camera with digital cameras. So if you want to still use a CSD, you can. And what would be one workflow, as you can see, this looks pretty shitty. And then if we go from red log 3G10 to Cineon, it will be way better already. And then we can go from red white gamut RGB to Rec 709, because Rec 709 is more or less close to film primaries. And as you can see, then it's looking way better already. So that's a before and after. But as I said, with ADX10, it's for me even a bit of a better workflow. And it still looks a bit weird because we expose to the right. And if we dial in this offset, then, which is just for this footage, you see, you get a very nice looking image. So without the CSD, it's not looking nice because we don't have the correct input, what I've talked about already. And with the CSD, it's looking very decent without any grading or anything else. So as you can see, that's a film profile and that's a hybrid LUT, and that's a nice thing to use in your daily workflow. Another thing would be the simple Rec 709 LUT. In this case, it's not from ARRI, but from Red. And that's a purely great technical transform, taking us from red white gamut RGB log 3G10 again to Rec 709 gamma 2.4. And as you can see, it's just the same offset. It's really just a technical transform. You see, that's a creative one because we get some nice looking colors already and some nice tone curves and stuff like that. And that's pretty neutral, and you can alter now the look however you want to. And last but not least, which is pretty exciting, I would say, because maybe some of you are using color management already. I've set everything up for Davinci Wide gamut in this project, but you can also use ACEScct, for example, or anything else. But I would say Davinci Wide gamut and ACEScct are the most common ones, so to say. So I'm transforming from red to Davinci Intermediate and Davinci Wide gamut, and in the end I'm going with my ODT to Rec 709 again, so from Davinci Wide gamut and Intermediate to Rec 709 gamma 2.4. Here's my offset again, and what I did, and all you guys will get this one too, I transformed the very same 2383 that we just used for Davinci Wide gamut, which is kind of hack and it's not ideal. But if you say, okay, I want to use my film print emulations, but in a more, let's so to say, in quotes, modern workflow, then you can transform your LUTs. I just didn't use the Rec 709 one, but the P3 one, so that we are limited to P3, which is advantage for when you're working in HDR. But everything else is the same. We use the D61, and then with the help of lattice, I transformed this one to a 3x1 D LUT. That means we just have the tone curve and the split toning in place, but not everything else. And as you can see, this way you can also have, with the click of just one, with just one click, you get a very amazing look. And what we did here is we basically just use the creative transform of this LUT and kind of eliminated the technical transform, and because of that we can also use it creatively. So within my key output, I don't have to use this at 100% strength, so at 1, but I can dial it in however I want to. So maybe I just want half of it, and as you can see, this looks pretty decent and very nice. Or let's say I want a bit more or a bit less, and that's a very nice way of working if you ask me. And I think Maxon also has this ability, and they're also having some film print profiles as far as I'm aware, and maybe Max can touch on that a bit more.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think he's the expert for that.
Thank you, Nico. Let me just grab your screen a little bit and change it to my screen. Alrighty. As I told you before, as I have shown like multiple times in this show, at Maxon we have Magic Bullet looks, and inside Magic Bullet looks, you can also use LUTs. So, for example, if you have collections of LUTs, or maybe if you are getting some of those nice LUTs from Nico's store, you can also use them with Magic Bullet looks. And once you set up your color management and so on and so forth, for example, here in Resolve, I set up my color management to be in ACEScct. I can set Magic Bullet looks to ACEScct. So mode set to ACES, and input, since we are in ACEScct, input should be in ACEScct, and output I just click same as input. And the preview, I want to preview it in Rec 709 because that's the color space I am targeting out. So if you have collections of LUTs that you want to use, inside Magic Bullet looks, there is like this new LUT tool that you can use. And by default, it comes with plenty of LUTs already. But for example, if you're curious and you want to adapt any LUTs to work in ACES, for example, as Nico already showed you, there's a possibility to do that. You can do that. And when you're using LUT tool inside Magic Bullet looks, the thing that you need to be aware of is the input space and then the output space. Since we are in ACEScct, I want my input space to be in ACEScct again, and my output back to ACEScct again, right? So in this case, if I have any LUT that works in ACES, I just select them, and voila, it's done, right? And there you go. I can change the strength. So if I want the strength just like 50%, I can do that. And from that, you can like pair and match whatever looks that you want to. So for example, if you want to add textures, you can still use the optical diffusions. And if you want to use the halations, because film normally have like this artifacts that we love called the halations. Probably Nico can talk more about that. It's basically like a physical artifacts when you are shooting with film, that the lights got bounced back from the back plate of your camera and picked up by the film negative, and it shows in the how do you call it, the result of your image. So by halations, I mean like this very nice sheen of light in the contrasty area between like the very dark and very bright. And as Nico already pointed you out before, there are also some film profiles ready in Magic Bullet looks as well. So there are plenty of options for you. If you are using Magic Bullet looks, you can work with LUT, or if you like the film profile that comes with Magic Bullet looks, they are available in this film tools. You can either choose film negative or film print. And what's nice here, since I already have like film print emulations, I can try to pair it with the film negative that I have. So for example, here we have Kodak 5201 Vision 50D. So there are like, I think 11 film negatives profile. Yeah, I think so. 11. Yes, I don't know. 11 or 22. I should do the math offline. But I can pair my film negative profile with a film print LUT that for example, that Nico will provide you. Here in the film negative, I can still change the color temperature, the tint. Like let's make it a little bit greenish. Let's make it warmer, and maybe I don't want to use the grain here, or maybe just a little bit, like 5, and also change the contrast slightly, something like that. And if I want to, I can still add the parametric grain, that is the renoiser after the LUT. And here I can choose any other presets. For example, this classic 35. And as you can see, you can change the amount of grain in the red channel or in the green channel or in the blue channel. And by default, if you choose anything with this film presets, you know that we have more grain in the blue channel compared to the green and red. And then you can also change the size in the or the amount in the highlight, midtone, and shadow as well. And if you want to, you can make it monochrome, and that's it. And you can also save it as a preset. and it will be available on your presets as well. So that's a quick how do you call it, tour of Magic Bullet looks and how you use LUT. Um, in my like workflow, I really love to pair like the available LUTs and generate the textures with Magic Bullet looks. So in Magic Bullet looks, there is this tool like this optical diffusions, which is like really physically accurate, and that's like my favorite tools at the moment: optical diffusions and halations. And I think, yeah, play around with that if you have Magic Bullet looks, right? So back to you, Nico.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the demo. It looks really, really good, and I definitely have to check it out. We talked about that already.
Oh,
And
absolutely. You have to check it out, man.
yeah, I will come back to you soon about that. And
Cool.
also, as you already said, with film print emulations, we also need other things like halation and grain if you really want to emulate a film look. But I think that's a whole nother topic we can talk hours for. So maybe
Yes.
I'll come back for that soon, and we talk about
Oh,
film
that's
emulation.
absolutely a pleasure.
Yeah,
Yes.
would be really great and would be really, really nice thing to do. And yeah, in the meantime, I'm already figured out the word that I was looking for. So I was
Yes,
looking
please.
for the power to, so what I was referring to with the 1024, the power to 3. So that's the reason why it's a really huge number, just to get that right. And because we just talked about film, and you asked about interpolation, I think that's also a really great thing to say, or to that we didn't cover yet is, for example, for film print emulations, or yeah, let's say film print emulations. For example, we can read film patches, and usually they're around 1000 to 1200, something like that, depending on which system you use. For example, you can use light illusion and then provide you with patches, and you can record them to film and then print them. And then you record, or then you do like, you need a densitometer, or and read the two, or the, let's say, around 1000 patches, and then you have like 1000 points, but your LUT can still be really big. And with the help of the math that's happening under the hood in light illusion, for example, or true light, you get interpolation between these points. And obviously, the more points you have, usually the error is less. But yeah, as you can see, you can also create very nice LUTs and very nice interpolation with 1200 patches or 1000 patches. And then you get smooth interpolation between those within LUTs, and it's still a very nice looking profile that's very, very good and very great to use.
So, Nico, you're just telling our audience that we can profile film,
Yeah, you
and
can.
that
You just need
those
a,
are the steps, and those are the steps. There you go, guys. If you want to
yeah,
profile your own film LUT.
it's pretty oversimplified, of course. But if you
Yeah.
want to learn more about film emulation, and I have a lot about film negative emulation on my website already, and I'm currently doing this actually. So I printed or recorded patches to a negative stock, which is a 250D Vision 3 codec stock, and then I printed, not me, but the lab printed this stock to a 2383, and I got the film rolls back for the negative and for the print, and now I just have to go through over 1000 patches with I do it with the spectrometer, which can also, with the program, read status M and status A densities. And when I have this ready, I still have some things to figure out. Then I have a nice negative and film profile based on density readings. And I will talk about this and share all my findings, and also have shared the findings that I already have on my website. So if you're interested in that, you can read through it. And as you said, basically everybody can do it. It's just a lot of work that you need to put in, so it's very time consuming, and it's also really expensive because you need a lot of stuff. You need a film lab that's doing those things for you, so you can do it, but you really need to be down for it and probably a nerd like me. But
Which is always
yeah,
good.
yeah, definitely. It can be good, but probably not always. But in this case, it's good. And yeah, I think we have like around 10 more minutes. Are there
Yeah.
any questions in the chat so far? Maybe we can
Exactly.
cover
There
those.
is one questions from Kiran, and his let me put it to the screen.
Ah, yeah, thank you.
Right, I'd say he's asking if like some plugins like Dehancer or some other plugins, if they are like they let me just read it. Right, studios use plugin like Dehancer, or they have amazing advanced LUTs to work with. Is there any way we as beginner can find those LUT or purchase which studio been using it? Like, can people out there that doesn't have access to studio LUT can still purchase like those studio level quality of LUT? Before you answer it, Nico, I just want to point out to Kiran, if you are using Magic Bullet looks, there are already some LUTs in it, and we are also keep working on developing the library of LUTs. And yeah, if you're using Magic Bullet looks, you can also check that one out as well. But let's hear from Nico.
Yeah, as Max already said, I think there are a lot of plugins available. Like the Magic Bullet looks, which Max just showed you. They have LUTs in there or looks to work with. And because you mentioned Dehancer, that's another one. So I guess you're looking for film print emulations or film negative emulations. And as far as my knowledge goes, you can also export the LUTs from Dehancer. So that would be one way to get those LUTs. And Dehancer got these profiles because they built them on their own. So basically, I don't know exactly how they build it. I think it's in their blog. But basically, I also showed you, or not showed you, but talked about one method, how you can profile them. You can also get like charts that I've shot from -5 exposure value to +5 exposure value with one-stop brackets in my shop. And you can get this from an Arial Amira and for example, Kodak 500T 5219, and you can match the colors, and then you have your own film emulation if you don't want to shoot charts yourself, for example. So that would be another way. And concerning the studios, most of them, or at least the really big ones, have their own color scientists. So if you saying like Photocam, for example, or Company 3 or Harbor or whatever other company, these are really big and they have stuff that are just there for doing LUTs. So if a DB comes to Photocam, for example, and says, hey, I want some kind of film emulation for my next feature film on some creative look, then they're working together with a colorist and a color scientist, and they will do the profiles and give them the LUTs to work with and to shoot with. And basically, obviously, I don't know exactly because I'm not working at such a big facility, but they probably have a lot of data from back in the days from shooting film, because most of them, for example, Photocam is working, I don't know, 50 years or so with film, and obviously they've seen it all and they developed it all, and they have a big library and database also from probably around year 2000 onwards. So for 20 years when DI came, because a lot of people, I guess, were looking for emulations, and of course they have a lot of profiles and they can adapt them and use them. And yeah, it's hard for you as a one-man band to get these profiles, but again, you can go out and shoot charts yourself. You can buy them in my shop, or you can also get plugins like the one from Maxon, Dehancer is also great. And for example, you can also look into Filmbox. They did a really, really good job, in my opinion. And it's definitely a good thing to have if you're looking for film print emulations.
But I think the word of cautions here is that you need to know which input, which color space that LUT is requiring, and which output that LUT is giving you back. Right, Nico, as you already pointed out. Because I think that's
Yeah,
also my mistake
definitely.
back then when starting out. Was just like, okay, I have this LUT, just use it here, just use it there. And after that, we just like, okay, like tweak it to our eyes, to our liking, which is, in my opinion, if I remember that, it's like, oh my god, what have I done?
Yeah,
And
definitely. And sorry,
can
go
you
ahead.
point out a little bit, Nico, when you are using LUT? How do you normally work with when you are using LUT? Do you still work after you are applying the LUT, or do you do anything under the LUT? I think that's a nice information for our audience to which are new to LUT, and probably that's perhaps that's worth mentioning. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I will go through that question in a minute. What I just wanted to say, another thing is you definitely should take care of where you purchase LUTs from. I think that's also the reason why some years ago LUTs have a pretty bad reputation, because they were all over the web. You had a lot of vendors, and some are really not great because they sometimes break your footage, you get banding, you get artifacts, and that's when they are not built well. So LUTs aren't always good, and don't buy LUTs from anywhere just because it states it's film emulation or they have some nice looking befores and afters on the website. I would definitely just buy from reputable sources. So that's another word of caution. So
You really
avoid
need to be
some,
picky,
yeah,
right?
you definitely have to be picky. And yeah, that's a reason why I said in the beginning that LUTs had a bad reputation back in the days, because there weren't really good vendors, or a lot of good vendors out there. But nowadays they are, and that's amazing. And as I said, um, the things that I've told you, the resources are very reputable and very well known within the industry, and they are working great. And the question that Max had is, yeah, it kind of depends, I would say. For example, let's start with this one. If I'm using a Rec 709 LUT, so a purely technical transform, I'm using that at the very end of my node tree. So nothing comes after the LUT. I do all my grading, all my look, all my corrections before the LUT, all my balancing, everything. Because this way, I'm like, if you're familiar with Resolve, that's my input in here, and then I'm stacking my nodes here, and that's my output. As you can see, there's nothing on the timeline, but that's my last node now. And that's very important, because this way I'm working in the big color space and on the log curve. That means everything I do before the LUT is in red, white, gamut, RGB, and log 3G10. And as you know, red, white, probably know, red, white, gamut, RGB is a really big color space. And then I'm transforming this very big color space to Rec 709 primaries, which is way, way, way smaller. And because of that, I don't want to do any corrections afterwards. And to give you also a great example where you need to be aware of order of operations, and what I was telling you with the disadvantage of a LUT is it's clamping 0 to 1. So for example, if I crush the blacks in here and then I go after my LUT, which you should never do. But as you can see, if I'm now lifting the blacks, it looks super weird and it doesn't look okay. And then you're saying, okay, what the fuck happened in here? Fuck this LUT, I don't like it. It's ruining my picture. But what essentially is ruining your picture is order of operations, because if I do this very same thing right before the LUT, when I pushed everything down in here and I raise it in here, as you can see, everything's still here because I'm working in this very big color space and with floating point data and everything, and then I'm just transforming out the Rex 109 at the very end. And that's important, and maybe that's also a reason why LUTs have a bad reputation, because some people aren't aware of that or aren't using it right. So as you can see, I can have some highlight clipping in here, but I can easily recover it when I'm working before the LUT. And yeah, that's another very important thing. So if you want to learn more about this topic, you can also dive in and look for color management. That's basically what this is. And you should always work color managed, I would say, because it's a nice way of working and it makes your life probably easier.
Awesome. Thank you,
Really long
Nico.
answer to a very short question. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, thank you so much, Nico. And I think I have one eyes on the clock, and we only have 3 minutes left, and we want to wrap it up. So, if you can just summarize it, Nico, what did we learn today? I think I can summarize that. Anytime we work with a LUT, be careful, be mindful, and be smart. You need to know what are the input and what are the outputs that your LUT is requiring. Because
Yes, correct.
using LUT is, it needs you to be a little bit smart, to give a little bit more thought. You cannot just use LUT on your footage and just expect magic to happen, right?
Yes,
That's
yes,
one.
that's a very good thing to say. Yeah, it's not
And
a magic bullet that will solve
exactly.
all of your problems. Yeah,
And
I agree.
speaking of magic bullet, we have magic bullet looks, by the way. That's a great segue.
Ah, yeah.
Second thing
Sorry
that
for the
we,
wording.
no problem. The second thing that I learned today is that there are types of LUT, right? There are technical LUT, and the creative LUT, and also hybrid LUT, and also the calibration LUT, right? So the technical transform from camera space into display space, for example. And then creative is just responsible for the look. It doesn't do any technical transformations. And then calibration LUT are LUTs that normally been used for calibrating screen, for example. And hybrid LUTs are combinations of any of those, but mostly it's technical and creative merged together. Is that correct, Nico?
Yes,
Cool. All right.
you
And the next thing,
amazingly said
I,
and summed
I'm
up.
just trying to summarize it for our audience. And the
Sure.
third things are there are three types of LUT. How do you call it? There are 1D LUT. There is 1D LUT, which is responsible only for the contrast change or the tonality
Yes.
change of your image. And there is 3D LUT. With 3D LUTs, you can change, manipulate the color as well as the contrast of your image. And third is the 3x1D LUT. That is like, you can combine the 3 times 1D LUT to affect the tonality as well as the split
Split
toning
toning. Yeah,
for
correct.
your image. Woohoo!
Yes. Sure.
And
And last but not
yeah,
least, LUTs come in different sizes. So you have like
yeah.
smaller ones like the 17 by 17 by 17, or like a really big one like the 65 by 65 by 65.
And where do I use what? As you told me before, the 17 point LUTs, normally you use it for calibrations, you mentioned before, Nico, isn't it?
Yeah, like there's no right or
No,
wrong, I
no
would
hard
say, but
hard set
I would
rules, right?
generally speaking, in my opinion, it's like the 17 point LUT is most of the time for 1D LUTs if you do like
For 1D LUT, sorry, yes.
yes, and but also for calibration. Some are using just 17 point LUTs for calibration, and that's also working well sometimes,
And
depending on your display, obviously.
yeah, and the 65 is the biggest one. And
Yes.
normally camera LUTs, they are 33 sizes, right?
Yes, correct. So if you do a lot for a DB or a DIT, I would suggest to use a 33 point LUT because that's like the one that loads up everywhere and it's universal. So you
Nice.
can load it into cameras, you can load it into LUT boxes, into displays and whatever device. And if you're working in post production, I would say a 65 point LUT is probably the best because it's bigger, it gives you more accuracy, and it's still working fast and reliable. And you can load it up within Resolve, and I think also with 3D software or VFX software, which is
Yeah.
amazing. And I would take advantage of the bigger size in post production.
And the things about LUTs is also probably the smoothness of the curves as well, right? And I think what you also want to say here is that with the bigger size, it's probably smoother than the smaller size LUT as well. Right.
Yeah,
Cool. So
awesome.
there you go, guys, and I hope you learned something about LUTs today. And by the way, Nico is like very generous, and he will provide us with assets, so you can get like this 2383 film LUT, and he will provide like two different types. I mean, three different types, even. I don't know what, but they will be available in. There will be available in Davinci Wide gamut and also in ACES. I will put that in the Dropbox, and I think the DaVinci Wide gamut is ready, but Nico will update that with the ACES. So probably tomorrow it will be available. So check back the recording of this video to see the link to the LUT in the description. So I'll do that right after we go. What is the opposite of not live? After we go offline. Sorry, there you go. That's
I
the word.
guess.
After we go offline, then I'll upload the LUT into Dropbox. So go back again and check the recording, and you'll be able to access those LUT. And if you're using Magic Bullet Looks, you can take that the ACES version and then load it to Magic Bullet Looks, and you'll be happy, chappy. Alrighty.
Awesome.
All right. And let me just point out a little bit again. If you are new to this show and you want to get this T-shirt, make sure that you visit the link in the chat. Um, hang on. There you go. And after you copy and paste that link into your browser, you need to enter the password. And the password today is Max on UV Workflows. And you can get one of these t-shirts free of charge. You just need to pay for a small shipping cost. And if you are curious about the events coming up, make sure to go to maxon.net/events. We will be in DAT, the Design and Animation Tour in Toronto, and also in D2 Vienna. So in I'm not sure when is that, but if you are interested, you can check that out
Awesome.
in maxon.net/events. And the recording of this video will be available in YouTube. So go to YouTube, type in Maxon Training Teams, and it will be there. And our colleague, Dr. Sasi, will do the timestamps for this video. And thank you so much for doing that, Dr. Sasi. You're the best. And Nico previously mentioned about his shop and his tutorial website. If you're curious and you want to know more, go to demystify-color.com, and there is a shop in that website. And Nico also have like very nice collections of LUTs available in the shop, right, Nico?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a
Cool.
lot for pointing
I
to it.
th- I think that's it for today. And thank you so much, guys, for coming. Thank you, Babar. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you, Greg and Kumar, Kiran. And yeah, I hope to see you guys again in 2 weeks' time. And with that being said, I hope you and I hope you I wish you a nice day, and take care. Nico,
Likewise.
I really looking forward to have you again in the show. Maybe we can talk more about film emulations in the future. It's been
Would be my
great.
pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. And
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Max.
thank you
Really
so
enjoyed
much.
it.
It's been my pleasure. All right, guys. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, and take
Thank you,
care.
guys. See you.
See ya.
Bye.
Thank you.